Hey everyone, it's Froggy, and I'm back again with another episode of Will a Wonderful World. So, after the last episode, I've been at a standstill. There was no new messages coming in, so I had to go back and start trying to get other endings for things. So, I'm back in this one, because I noticed that I didn't get the second rank for it. So this is Regret with when Zauren, the teacher. So this is them in the woods, and I think I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said it. So she confessed her feelings, or he confessed his feelings. You're my teacher. I must have made you very uncomfortable, but I couldn't hold it in any longer. If I don't tell you how I'm feeling, I'll lose my mind. So we're gonna do, I pushed her and ran towards the door. I want to be with you. She began crying. What on earth have I been saying? I couldn't bear to look at her anymore. I ran out of the cabin and sat down at the door, pretending to be staring at the rain. She sat down to my right. Perhaps we had a mutual understanding. Neither of us said anything. Not for a long while. The rain had finally stopped, and the sun had come out. Did you see a rainbow? I wasn't expecting her to ask about this, and I was a little surprised. No. A few minutes later, she leaned her head on my shoulder and fell asleep. She didn't seem to be dreaming this time. I looked at her beautiful smile as she slept, and I finally made up my mind. I let her sleep on my shoulder quietly for another half hour. I wanted to selfishly enjoy these last glorious moments by myself. The world had stopped moving for all I cared. I couldn't make you happy in this life. But if I had the chance, I would dedicate my entire next life to be with you. Alright. Okay, here we go. So we got a new letter now. Holding on. Alright. Ever since I was a little kid, I had always wanted to I always liked to ponder certain questions. Why was I me? Why were other people them? Why wasn't I other people? Why weren't they me? Did the world really exist, and was everyone living in it the same as I? Or was the world like a movie playing in front of me, and I was the projector of the movie? If I shut myself down, would the world still exist? I knew I would never find out the answers to these questions, because I could only be myself, not anybody else. Even when I had learned that there were over 7 billion people on the earth, or that compared to the sun, the earth was as big as a grain of sand on the beach, or that in the universe our sun was barely as big as a grain of sand. I didn't have the answers to those questions. Therefore, ever since I was a little kid, I had always been eager to prove myself to the world. I must get the best grade on the exam. I must be the last person standing in a fight. I must be the best artist in the world. And I almost had been the world's finest artist. 14 years ago, in an unusually wet winter in Italy, I had been living in Venice at the time, preparing for my first personal art show. If the show was a success, it would be possible for me to become one of the most highly prized artists in the world, recognized alongside some of the greatest names in history. After weeks and weeks of preparation, I was exhausted, but also excited. When my fiancé called and told me that she had caught the flu and that she had to be hospitalized for a few days, I barely thought twice about it. I just told her to get some rest, thinking I would make it up to her with a huge surprise as soon as I got back home. I could never have imagined that a crumbled and ruined world would be awaiting me. V-I-R-S? I forget if I can click things in this. No. Okay. Maybe it'll appear in that little dictionary. When the entire country was embroiled in a devastating fight against the virus and gasping for breath, I was laughably living in my own space, completely isolated from the tragedy. When my bubble finally burst, I realized everything that I had ever chased meant nothing anymore. I was nothing but a selfish coward. I kept painting, but only because I had no idea what else I could possibly do. 10 years later, I had been diagnosed with stomach cancer. Karma. I didn't want to, nor did I deserve to cause anyone any more trouble. So I had the surgery alone and left China with barely any luggage. The world was so big, and I wanted to see it before the end. The Amazon jungle, Antarctica, the Middle East. I suffered from hunger and cold. I had even been hit by a bullet. When I had finally thrown away all of my nonsense and started truly appreciating the world for what it was, I began to realize that this world and the lives in it were also magnificent and real. Another 3 years had gone by, and I had been feeling pretty great when I went to the doctor for another checkup. The doctor said I was in remission. The cancer was under control. He said my positive and relaxed attitude could be very helpful for treatment. Before I left, he told me to keep living life and treasure it like I had been given a second chance. After I left the hospital, I suddenly had the urge to go and see a person whom I had often been thinking about. But I couldn't allow myself to. I could only hope that she was having a happy and good life. I settled down in Hong Kong. I had rented a small studio, and I had been teaching little kids drawing. I wasn't well paid, but I was enjoying myself. Occasionally, there would be a few people who would visit my studio, and they told me that they wanted to purchase some of my pieces. Well, my paintings were all records of the most unforgettable people and events in my life. How could I possibly sell them? God had always loved toying with me. Just when I was getting used to this peaceful new life, it was shaken upside down again, literally this time. A severe earthquake hit the island of Hong Kong without any warning. When I came to, I had been buried under debris. My right hand was pinned under a big piece of concrete, and I had lost all feeling. I assumed the bones had probably been broken. A day had gone by. I hadn't had anything to drink since the day started. A day had gone by. I thought I had heard somebody yelling something. A day had gone by. The darkness had swallowed me. I had gone 3 days without water. My body was severely dehydrated, and I couldn't even urinate. I thought I had heard somebody calling my name for the past 2 days. I must have started hallucinating. Things couldn't get any worse. I looked at my right hand underneath the concrete, and I still couldn't feel anything. I made a decision. 1, 2, 3, 4. I picked up a rock with my left hand and smashed it at my right wrist until I started bleeding. I sucked on my own blood, tried not to waste a single drop. Perhaps it was all an illusion, but I felt a little more energy through my body. Yet my decision did not seem to pay off. Another few days had gone by. My right hand was barely looked like a hand anymore. There was still no sign of rescue. I wanted to live. When's our run? Oh boy. Alright, buddy, let's try and help you out here, huh? A day had gone by. I hadn't had anything to drink. The darkness swallowed me. Thought I heard somebody yelling my name. Let's start with that. I had gone so long without any water. My body was seriously dehydrated. I had to drink my own urine, hoping to survive until I could be rescued. Even though I had been submerged inside the darkness, I could still sense every sunrise and sunset. Whenever the sun went down, the night chill would surround me, along with a growing desperation. I felt something near my left hand. It seemed to be a piece of paper hanging out of a bag. It was one of the paintings from my old collection. I put the painting in front of my nose. I started to see the vague shapes of the painting. Oh. It was a quick sketch from my teaching days in Beijing. It wasn't really a piece of art. The subject of the painting was a girl. She was holding a pencil and drawing. Her face was tightened up, thinking about her strokes. She was actually drawing me, and not very well, by the way. I had carried this sketch with me wherever I went. I would take it out and look at it whenever I was resting. I had wondered if I should draw another one, but eventually I decided not to. The sketch, even the paper itself, was one of my most precious memories. I wanted to live. Achievement unlocked, the artist. Okay, we got rank B. There we go. Oop. Body. There. Plea. Spawned. This voice. I would never forget this voice, ever. I must have started hallucinating. My mind went back to my teaching days 3 years ago. The girl that I had chosen to be my assistant just because I had wanted to go home early. She was yelling my name. She was angry at me that I had torn up her friend's sketch. She did not know that we had already met the night before. If a person could still live in his own memory after death, I wished I could return to that moment and freeze time. Then I would look at her, do nothing but just look at her until the end of time. A small pebble fell down on my head, and I opened my eyes. The light coming through the crack blinded me, and I hadn't seen the light for so long. The crack was becoming bigger and bigger until my face was completely exposed in the sunlight. I could see the person who was closest to my heart, but only their silhouette. Still, it looked incredibly like her. But how could it be possible? The silhouette stopped moving. It seemed to be hesitating. Can you hear me? Can you move your hand? It even sounded like her. Even though I knew it couldn't possibly be her, I still teared up, unable to control myself. I struggled to raise my left hand. She reached out her hand. Don't let go. Hold on. Now keep your eyes on me. Hold on. Keep your eyes on me. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm so scared. Don't be scared. I would never leave you alone, ever. Don't be scared. I would never leave you alone, ever. I held onto her hand as tightly as I could with all of the strength that I had left. Even if it was just an illusion, I would never let her go again. I'm sorry. I had broken my word. For the last 3 years, I had thought about what I would say to her if I ever got to meet her again, so many times in my head. I had practiced all of the various scenarios that I could think of. Yet in the end, all I was able to mutter was a mere sorry. She didn't respond, but I could feel her shaking. I took a deep breath. Could you give me another chance to love you? 1 year later, a new piece of mine was on display at the Beijing Exhibition Center. I had named the piece The Sun. A lot of people had asked me, wouldn't The Sunrise be a more appropriate title? I would always respond with a smile. Yes, to the others, the piece was about the sunrise. But to me, it was about the most important thing in my life. It was the sun, but not the sun. I glanced at the girl to my right, who was staring at the painting quietly. I put my arm around her shoulder. It started snowing outside of the center. The pedestrians all stopped and marveled at the scene. No one had ever seen snow in the middle of summer. Yet while the snow kept getting heavier, the sun was still shining blindingly in the sky. My eyes squinted in the bright glare, and I held onto her hand even tighter. We both smiled. God has really blessed me. Aw, reunion! Aw! Yay! Okay, this is good. Aw, well, alright, I'll have to figure out more of them then, but I'm gonna end this episode here for today. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you want to see more videos from me, then don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.